Join us on Now We Consume. Take in the knowledge, take in the laughs, indulge in the topics with us. The Now We Consume podcast will take you through the parts of your day you normally dread. Why suffer through the existential crisis of life alone when you can do it with us? And now we consume.
This is not meant to be a conspiracy episode or podcast, but we may cover some topics that dance that line like a toddler dances on their mother's last nerve. This podcast is rated I, for immature audiences only.
If you're one of the many people who like to attach a clown horn to their home defense shotgun, you've come to the right place. Welcome back to the Now We Consume podcast. I'm your host, Pip. Joining me as always is my co-host, Gibbs.
Hello!
And tonight, we will be talking about one of the more controversial things that we've discussed on the show, American gun culture. Why do we here in America love our pew-pews so much?
Life has many clowns, fed boy, and I am one of them. Honka honka.
Yeah, I've had the opinion for a long time that if you're somewhere that you're not supposed to be, the sound of a pump shotgun or getting racked is probably the second most terrifying noise you could hear. Second only to that of a chainsaw starting up.
Yeah, well, dang, that's just ingrained because of horror movies and stuff like that. Like a chainsaw, that is pretty terrifying, but very few things beat the racking of a nice 12-gauge shotgun.
Oh yes.
It is the universal signal of I mean business. And I am in the cleanup business. Let me tell you.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Knowing that you're not where you should be if you're in that line of work and hearing that shotgun getting racked, you know that you're probably done for the day.
Yeah, you know your day has one of two exits, and you're not going to enjoy either one of them. That this is no longer a consensual matter.
No.
But no, we wanted to discuss. I guess it is from very much an American perspective. We are aware of that, but the existence of American gun culture and why really is kind of the big thing. Why does it exist? What are kind of our thoughts on it? The reasons for it, and some general advice, some general discussion, things like that. We're leaving it kind of open because there's a lot for us to discuss. But you also didn't want to talk about the reasons for and against, but also really comparing to other countries. I looked up some data and some statistics, and there's some stuff we're to full disclosure, we're both avid guys in the Second Amendment community. I'm not going to lie and say either one of us isn't, because we both are.
Right.
You know, we might have a little bit of a bias towards it, but I think we're both mature enough to also understand the complications and issues that comes with any sort of right or liberty and things like that. But
right. And
that's where it comes.
Here's a thought that I've held for many years. If you could snap your fingers like, Thanos snap and just get rid of all the firearms on the face of the earth, it wouldn't really change a whole lot in the way that people still kill each other and do general harm to each other, because people kind of suck.
It's far more of a culture thing than a weapon thing.
Yeah. There's the age-old phrase, guns don't kill people, people do. And it's really accurate only because the methodology is all that's evolved through the years. The premise and the outcome has remained the same. All the way through history, the evolution of weaponry has increased in technological advancement, but the want to do harm has remained the same. I mean, from the invention of the bow and arrow way back in the day when we decided, I want to stab that guy, but he's way the fuck over there. All the way to, I need that cow in my freezer. I mean, okay, we don't hunt cows. I just, animal popped in my head. I'm kind of hungry too. So a steak sounds really great right now. Yes. Hamburger, cheeseburger, Whopper, Big Mac.
Did you ever see that dude edit with the
one?
guy say that the oh god, what his name? The big fat guy that's in Dune.
Oh yeah.
When they're outside singing that. Oh, I laugh every time. Oh
yes.
yeah.
But one one reason that I feel like most Europeans, especially, look so down on American gun culture is because they've had the convenience of having a country, well, a set of countries that have existed for the majority of occupied human civilization. America, and I'm just going to read from the notes I wrote earlier. America came to depend on the firearm for westward expansion. Europe, by and large, has been settled for the majority of human civilization. While the needs have changed over time, the history still remains. And for those who have a more detached sense from the history of their own freedom, it's difficult for many to see the need for having access to firearms like we do here in America. One needs only to look around and then ask themselves, how would the American citizenry have been really treated over the last 6 years if we weren't as well armed as we are? And you'll have your answer. In some countries, rights and freedoms have been eroded away to the point that kitchen utensils are now feared by the government in the hands of its people. Imagine if those same people became armed at an American level overnight. I mean, rivers would run brown. More brown than they do now.
Unless it's India, in which case they're all brown.
The rivers.
Hey, it's a multi-level joke. Take it for what it is.
I get it. One thing that all firearms owners and advocates have to keep in mind, and yes, I'm going to quote Spider-Man on this one, is that with great power comes great responsibility. We have to accept that if we're going to continue to push for the rights of ownership of firearms, we are going to have to deal with the fact that bad shit will happen. We need to find ways to mitigate it and prevent it by any means necessary. I feel like people who advocate for gun control, their heart is in the right place, but their methodologies are piss poor, plain and simple. Do you have any quick thoughts on that one?
So I think America and Europe looks at it in two fundamental different ways, because really our country is really kind of founded on individual rights and freedom, the idea that you are responsible for yourself, your family, and it's not from the collective group. It's not their responsibility. Whereas in Europe, you are right. There is no wilderness. There is nothing to be explored. Everything is kind of found. There's always someone around the corner. There's always a village. There's always a protected space. There's always someone you can go to for backup or for help. That there is some sort of level of bureaucracy or government or official or military. There's someone there. So in the case of most of Europe, you're not actually alone. You might be responsible for yourself, but really it's more of a collective mentality of everybody's there to help everybody, which is great for them. And that's cool. I'm glad you do that in your country, but we were founded specifically on the idea of kind of the individual rights, liberties, and freedoms from more like views from John Locke, for example, and a few others of our kind of founding ideas coming from very much the French and English classic liberalism is basically what that's called. Those ideas of being, it's not from the government. I see your face over there. It's not from the government, but it's more from people that were great minds and thinkers back then, from France and England, coming up with the idea of individual liberties and freedoms, not from the government, but as per the individual. So in America, why the reason that we have firearms is not only due to our really geography, but also because it was from the founding fathers saying, hey, it's up to you. At the end of the day, no one's coming to save you. At the end of the day, no one's always going to be there. There's so much unexplored wilderness, so much area that it's your responsibility at the end of the day, which is great. Yeah. But that does mean, and I agree with you 100%, that there are some negatives, some issues when you have to have people be responsible for it. There are some rare cases where those people can't handle that responsibility, or some people don't understand. Mm-hmm. And so I understand why some Europeans might not get it, because to them, they don't have these kind of issues. A bear isn't going to come out of the woods and hurt them, or a crocodile, like in Florida, is just going to come over there and try and eat your dog. But like in America, we have those issues, but also in Europe, and by and large, they've really kind of hunted a lot of things out of extinction. They've had people there for so long, have so many things documented, that there really isn't much of a threat. There's nothing hunting humans out there. Whereas in America, like, not for nothing, mountain lions are scary as hell. Are you kidding me? There are places in America, you know, even though I live near an area that's like pretty well populated, we still have mountain lions. We still have bears. We still have things that will kill you, and they will not give two shits about it. And I'm not saying that's the only reason, but it is a very good reason to have that option.
Yeah, firearms are definitely tools. No different than a hammer.
No. And
used appropriately or inappropriately can kill.
Just like anything.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you know,
keeping firearms for personal protection, protection of the home and property, not something that the vast majority of Europe has to deal with. Another thing, people in Europe often fail to realize how absolutely massive this country is. You know, they talk about taking a train and going from Germany to Lithuania to Italy in the same day. We can barely get from one time zone to the next in the same day by most average means of transportation. Not to mention most of our, mass transit systems are shit.
To give you an idea of the size difference and what I want to make people understand, Europe is about 3.93 million square miles, whereas the US is 3.8. However, Europe has almost double the population. Sorry, over double the population. I'm sorry. We're at 340 million, and Europe's around 750 million.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you're talking barely more space over double the population. AKA less than half the square footage to go around. Just a little bit of context to put in there, because it doesn't look like it on maps and you're looking it up that, is it really that much different? No, it is. So
I didn't think it was.
Sorry about the background noise there for a second. I had to adjust something.
Oh, good.
Is it gone now?
Not so much.
Man, 1 second.
All right. But aside from self-defense, people like to hunt. We like to shoot for sport. We have the collector's side. We have the sheer fact that it's just a part of our culture. It's been ingrained in our entire Constitution as a part of our history. I don't know how big the hunting aspect is over in Europe. I know they do have some areas for it. Some countries, I would assume, have more availability than others. I know that the countries are still big. Spain, Germany, France, those are three of the bigger ones that come to mind. I know they have hunting in some of those areas. Sports shooting, I'm not familiar with the sports circuits over in Europe, but I know our one European friend on Discord, he's talked about some of the things that he gets into. So
it really depends on the country, though, because some countries are really restrictive, some aren't. I think the thing that's unique with America is the carrying part of it. There's a lot of countries in Europe where you can own stuff. Granted, it's highly regulated. It's that you're really only allowed to have it going to and from a range or to and from a sporting event, whereas you can't really carry it daily for self-defense.
Right.
That's the big point.
We have the unique ability to be our own police force here in America. And again, that comes with a very high level of personal responsibility. The nice thing is the vast majority of people who decide to carry are very well trained. They are more level-headed, generally speaking. And I'll touch on that here in a second. Just remind me of constitutional carry. They are the ones who you want on your side in a really bad situation. When it comes to the concept of constitutional carry, I will play devil's advocate, because as a former firearms instructor, I have always been an advocate of training. If you're going to make the conscious decision to carry a firearm, you need to have the training and skills necessary to use it effectively and to be aware of the consequences of not just you using it effectively, but using it ineffectively or misusing it. Because when you've got that firearm with you, so many things all of a sudden become different situations.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things where you are only as good as your training. If you have not trained for something, that means you're going to be handling it like it's the first time. And there are some things in life you can't really train for, don't get me wrong. But when in terms of handling a firearm as a daily protection, that is something that you should seek out and search and get that training for. Because at the end of the day, not only in terms of a moral argument are you responsible, but legally you are responsible. There's two different avenues here for the discussion. The one is morally, absolutely, you should be proficient with your firearm. If you're not proficient with it, there's no point in you carrying it really at that point, because you could be more of a liability than anything.
Absolutely.
Number two, legally, you have to understand in this country, if you make even the smallest mistake, straight to jail. No discussion, straight to jail.
Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
No, you will owe thousands. And states purposely go out of their way to come after you. And many states have shown, and you can see it in the proceedings, you can see it in these court cases, where even if you are legally within your right to defend yourself, there are some states that will still throw the book at you. They will still come after you. So you not only have to be proficient with your firearm, but you have to understand the laws in your state. And especially if you're traveling from state to state. I think a lot of Europeans don't understand that America, sure, it might be legal to carry depending on your situation, but we are 50 little countries within a big country. And those laws are not universal right now. Hopefully that changes, but those laws are not universal. And they're highly situational. And in many cases, what is legal in some state is not legal in another, especially with things like castle doctrine, especially with having a duty to either run away or to de-escalate or to disengage. It entirely depends on your state. In many of those situations, many of those laws, I vehemently disagree with. But it's unfortunate to where you could do everything right by the laws of, let's just say, Texas. But if you happen to live in New Jersey, you go to jail. So...
yeah, I have a big problem with a law that says if someone breaks into your house, you have to try to get out of your own house.
There's New Jersey.
I'm sorry, what?
New Jersey, California, Massachusetts, Hawaii. And I wanted to say New York as well. You have
I think Illinois.
Oh, probably Illinois too. You have a duty to retreat, where the idea is that if somebody breaks into your house, you have the legal obligation to first make an effort and try to retreat out of the home. And then if they pursue you, then you can engage. The problem is that you're assuming the intent on the intruder at that point. And you have to play this weird legal game in some states of you have to make sure you can either, and I can't say this without, I can't imply this, but you either have to assume what the person that's trying to get into your home is doing, or you have to make it so they can't not assume. And it's very unfortunate that our laws have basically made it so you have to effectively handle the situation.
Remove a part of the conversation.
Yeah. I'm trying to say it without violating any rules here, but that's one of the problems I have is when they regulate it so much that I am forced to, in the state that I live in, deal with things in the worst way possible. And that is that scenario. And it's ridiculous. But
so, fun fact, if you're involved in a situation where you have to discharge a firearm, even in self-defense, and even if you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are in the clear, you're still going to probably spend at least a night in jail. That's just the shitty fact of it. And it's more so just because the police were trying to do their job, and they have to sort through the facts. They have to sort through the situation.
I get.
So that was one thing that I taught in my classes was, if you're involved in this situation, here's what you need to be prepared for. And having firearm insurance, having the carry insurance, some of the different services that are out there, they vary. For the most part, they'll cover the vast majority of issues, but there's still going to be just that initial mental anguish because, God forbid, you're in that situation, you will have just taken a life. That in and of itself is something that a lot of people cannot handle, whether it was a good shoot or not. There are a lot of good people out there who know that what they're doing is and was right, that are going to struggle every day
Yeah.
having known what they did. And I don't want to put that on anybody else, but that's why we do it. That's why we carry. That's why we have these tools to protect our family, because they are the ones who cannot protect themselves.
Exactly. And
at the end of the day, a firearm is the great equalizer. It's the tool that allows a 120-pound woman to be able to fight off a 250-pound attacker.
Yeah.
Again, if she's trained to use it properly.
And that is the biggest caveat. That's always been one of the biggest things I've always told other people. If you're going to carry and get to that, for the love of God, get some training with somebody that is qualified, that has years of experience, that knows what they're talking about, and somebody that's reputable. Because also, I've seen these guys too. If you go to these people on YouTube, I don't want to name drop who they are, but I'm sure you've seen them, where they give you these BS, self-defense situations or BS things they do with a firearm, thinking they're Neo from the Matrix or some sort of crap. Like, no. Or people that have never been in that situation trying to tell other people how to handle it. No way.
Find the people that will train in real life situations. Yeah. Find the people that you have to sign the consent forms to train with.
Yes.
They're the ones who will put you into the situations that will really stress you out. They're the ones that will engage you. They're the ones who will test you. And they're hard to find.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot of them out there anymore, because quite frankly, they get Me Too'd.
No, not only do they get Me Too'd.
Even though they signed up for the course, this is what you're here for.
No, it's not just Me Too'd as well, but also for legal reasons. Of just various legal reasons for liability. Unfortunately, we've created a system, and this is large part due to our politicians, where we have the right to carry, but it seems like we don't have the right to train. There's this really weird thing where getting meaningful, reliable information and training that also coincides with local, state, and then federal guidelines is something that is damn near impossible unless you're like the Secret Service or something crazy, some sort of specialized group, some high-end security group. As a civilian, it's very difficult to get. I'm not saying you can't, but it is difficult. So just be aware, understand. I want Europeans to understand that the vast majority of Americans that carry are people like us that try our best to be responsible, that try our best to train, that hope to God we never have to use it, that hope that
it's the one thing that we have at the ready every single day that we hope to hell we never have to actually use.
No.
It's like having a parachute when you're flying a plane. You sure as hell want it if you need it, but you definitely don't want to have to reach for it.
No.
Because if that's the case, your day has gone from good to shit very badly.
My pants are suddenly brown. Let's start that day that way.
No.
The only thing I can give to people for training advice, and this has been a recent thing for me, they make for a lot of handguns, they make like 1-to-1 metal replicas in airsoft.
Yes.
And I found my M17, there is a metal, like an all steel, everything feels the same way, but it's an airsoft replica. So now I'm teaching my girlfriend how to like do stuff and how to do in situations. I'm even doing things with it that like I wouldn't feel comfortable using with a properly loaded handgun, doing trainings around the house, but now I can use that. And it's that 1-to-1, even it's almost the same weight. Obviously it's a couple ounces off, but there are training tools to where even if you can't get access to some of these other trainings, at least there are facsimiles and replicas that will get you close, that will get you to where you can practice these basic things.
Even those laser systems that replace the cartridges, they will get you with that first shot placement, because a lot of that's just muscle memory.
Oh yeah.
And they're good. The technology for that has come a long way over the years.
And that's a big thing to look for, that there's like 9 or 10 different systems like that with various names that you can have as training tools around the house.
Yeah.
And that's something as well, if you're going to carry, at least try to develop a regular schedule to handle the firearms, train them, disassemble, reassemble, do some maintenance, that kind of stuff. Because I hate to say it, no matter how much training you have, if you walk away from it for years, you're going to be rusty. Don't trust. It's like, I always bring it from, like, for example, I'm a musician by trade. And if I walk away from my guitar for a few months, holy hell, I'm like, Jesus Christ, what am I, how am I suddenly playing in Japanese? I don't understand it. Like, this has suddenly changed to a different thing, and I don't get it. And it takes me a little while to pick it back up. Same thing, even with firearms. Like, sure, I can handle my stuff and do what I got to do, but there's no way I'll be as proficient if I just took that 15, 20 minutes a week, handle the firearms, go through my training, go through my process and procedure. And there's tons of good guides on YouTube about things to do on a weekly basis for any of your firearms.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're one of those people that hasn't used it in a while and you have to use a self-defense situation, you're like, where the fuck is my safety? Yeah, that's a great way to get shot. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one reason why for all the important things, you can get the ones that just either don't have safeties or they're built into like the triggers.
Or the grip safety, get the 1911 where it's just nice and simple.
Yeah. So.
Although I'll give Canik some credit. I love that trigger safety on that.
Oh,
thing.
I love Canik. Canik, please sponsor us.
I'm a Canik
line.
I'll tell you right
yes. Now. I tell you what, I have probably been responsible for more sales from Canik than anybody else I know.
I'm probably going to buy a second one.
Yeah. Getting a hold of their stuff, man, it's glorious. Like, they make quality stuff.
For inexpensive too. That's
right.
I have buddies that spent double the amount of money on Smith & Wesson, and they were like, God damn it, you have a better trigger.
Mm-hmm. Dude, those triggers are so crisp.
Some of the best in the game, you got to spend double or triple the money to get close.
Yeah. And their like their match level offering is like $500 out of the box, and it is match ready, good to go, and it's solid.
And I've actually handled some of their higher end stuff, like the $800 ones. Jesus Christ, they're so good. The amount of times, to give you guys an idea, the amount of times I have contemplated just selling off 5 or 6 of my pistols just to be like, I'm just gonna go all Canik. Just like, I'll just have a nice one. I have a subcompact. I have my compact. I have my full size. Like I'm sorry. There's things.
It's good to know that you still have some, because I lost all mine in a boating accident.
Oh. There are jokes that I cannot make on stream because of the state I live in.
I know. But no, if we go all the way back to when the Constitution was written, the writing of the Second Amendment should have included a lot more than what it has. The Federalist Papers, in particular, paper number 29, was one of the bigger supporting documents that had the information that really dictates and details a lot of the information on the Second Amendment. There was a lot of concern about government power at the time, and they saw what could have become and the overreach government could have with respect to everything, and eventually has come to pass. The well-regulated militia debate has been going on for about 200 years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
When it was written, well-regulated simply meant organized, disciplined, and supplied.
Precisely.
The new interpretations literally mean, well, there should be regulations and, laws against it.
So,
and I don't know when that interpretation changed.
The way people are looking at it originally, it was militia meant of, organized, and supplied by the people, not a government regulated thing. Whereas now people are thinking militia means, oh, it's government regulated, oriented, run, supplied. And that's wrong. The language of the time was of the people, by the people, for the people when it comes to a militia. The idea was that the militia would always be stronger than any federal military force. So the idea was, no matter who came to be in power, no matter who came in charge, it would be the people that overall ruled. How do you know this? Because in the Constitution, the idea is for the people to have the deciding vote and the ability to overthrow all threats, foreign and domestic, including any sort of government they do not like. That is enshrined.
Not just the ability, the duty as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That is the obligation. That's part of that responsibility of being a gun owner of fortress. That's supposed to be, hey, if you have a tyrannical government, it's up to you guys You have the legal right and authority, something that people kind of forget nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Our founding fathers kind of saw where all this stuff was going, hundreds of years ago. And unfortunately, we're there.
Man, listen, if AI goes the way it's going and it develops time travel, I want to go back, like get in the phone booth, go back and get a couple of those guys and bring them up here and let them see what the world became and just talk to them and be like, what do y'all think? Maybe you need some rewrites there.
So what we need to tell them is explain the Constitution to people like they're 5 years old. Just redo the whole thing. What you do is do the Constitution, which is great. Love it. Do the Bill of Rights and say, imagine if people were beaten with the stupid stick mercilessly, just for hours and hours a day. Get them to understand it.
Yeah.
Then you're good. Then you're on the right track. And the thing is, I don't blame people nowadays, because this is like my little side rant. If you're in part of modern academia, you might not understand that words definitionally change over time. There's something called connotation and denotation. So the idea is most language is always written in connotation, or the idea is that what are the words meaning to us at the time? What other emotions or definitions are listed? Whereas denotation means definitionally. Now, what's supposed to happen is whenever you're reading any sort of historical document, you have to take both into perspective. And most of all the founding fathers were well or decently well educated. So they chose their words very carefully. They spent months, if not years, crafting that Constitution. Every single word was
well thought out,
debated over, exactly, and deliberated on. So what you need to understand is have to take into consideration the connotation, meaning the words with the meaning of the time, and the denotation, which is the words as of how they're defined throughout history and to today, and compare and contrast that. But people like to look at that document and say, oh, well, this word means this now. It's like, well, yes, but it hasn't always meant that. Language is constantly evolving. You have to take it at the time of it was written to help understand the context. Now, they used words with the assumption back then, because remember, back then it was only landowners were voting, only those people that were wealthy and that were actually invested in the country were voting. So they had assumed that that was always going to be the case, and that the idea is that those people that were wealthy enough or invested enough or educated enough would be the ones voting. Therefore, they would understand what these words meant. And I'm not saying that is a good or a bad thing, but that was the general assumption for when the country was founded. So,
well, I think they always assumed educated people would always stay educated and intelligence would increase throughout the years. Yeah. They never could have imagined a dumbing down of society like we've seen in the past 40 or 50 years.
Oh, absolutely.
Oddly enough, we just touched on that.
Well, they never thought people would be so removed from what I guess the crisis of the human condition is, or really the brutality of the human condition, where the reality of the world is something that's very violent, very brutal, and very disgusting. And we, thankfully, in the Western society are so far removed from it that we don't have to deal with that kind of stuff. Whereas the founding fathers saw exactly what happened. I mean, to give you an idea of the kind of stuff they went through on a daily basis, most of all those people will have to slaughter their own meat, slaughter their own animals. How many of us, I've had to do this once, and I'll be honest with you, as much of a man's man as I am, as much of a manly dude I am, I don't ever want to have to do this again, having to take a chicken and snap its neck and then have to pluck all the feathers and do all that. Jesus Christ, that's horrifying. And these people, from the day they were like 7, were like, oh, hey, I need chicken. It's just, it's one of those things. Anyways, I don't even want to know in chat. So it is one of those things where nowadays we just go to the store and just chicken shows up, beef shows up, milk shows up. We're not involved with the process of how to deal with these things. I don't think our founding fathers ever would have thought in a bajillion years that you could just go to this thing called a grocery store and have milk that's refrigerated.
Right.
That must be an amazing concept. So let alone all the advancements, but also I guess the lack of common sense, because people are so far removed from it that people don't understand this basic language.
Yeah. The sheer lack of and loss of intelligence throughout the centuries. I think it would impress them.
You know,
I think they would be so dumbfounded by.
they view us the way we view idiocracy.
Probably, yeah.
We are their idiocracy.
Yes. 100%.
Because what's crazy to think about back then is like back then they all built their own houses.
Oh, yeah.
Like they'd just be like, yeah, I like this land. I will just go and build a house over the next few months. And
Yep.
mind you, most people our age are like, what the fuck is the right side of a hammer? Like I hate to say that.
What bathroom do I use?
I'm not even going there. I'm not even going there. I'm not touching that with a 39 and a half foot pole. Nope. Mm-mm. But it's not, I feel bad because it's not the kid's fault nowadays.
No.
It is their
Kids are taught what they're taught, and they don't have any access for many years to learn on their own.
And that's the problem. It's really society. And how this relates to firearms is pretty simple. The reason why so many people that are younger just simply don't know about firearms because they were never exposed. They look at it as something they see in the movies. It's something bad. The police misuse them. People misuse them. It always has a bad aura or a bad connotation around it. So no wonder why a lot of the younger people are like, ugh, guns are bad. Where back in the day, and I'm so jealous, back in like the 50s, 60s, even 70s, people used to just bring their hunting rifles with them to school. They'd be like 15 or 16, like, oh, I'm going hunting with my dad later. So I just have my rifle loaded up into the truck and no one would care. Like,
yeah,
it was
I'm old enough that at my school, being a more rural school, I can remember having shotguns in the rack of the truck. So that because people either went hunting before or were going hunting after school, and it was not an issue.
That people where I live, it would be like, I wish I remember the name of the movie, but their head would not explode. It would implode, create a dying star, and then explode. Like they would not be able to fathom with the idea of, oh, you brought a gun within 500 feet of a school. What are you insane? Like it's people don't understand how quickly everything has changed.
Not to mention that in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and I think even into the 70s, a lot of schools had shooting competitions, shooting clubs, teams.
They had classes.
Yeah.
I think that's something that should be brought back. I'll be honest.
100%.
I really feel like what they should do is train with the local police department, with some retired guys from the police department, and they get to train with them. They get to go to the range with the kids, teach them how to use a firearm, stuff like that. And it would make life a lot easier. Because not only do the police department get to know the kids in the high school and you know, the elementary school, high school, middle school, whatever, but they get to see exactly how they can handle this kind of stuff, how they can learn it. And it's not like you have to give a kid a 50 cal, like, you know, just 22s and stuff like that and small stuff. Nothing crazy. You know, just so they understand like the basics. Because one of my biggest worries in this world is somebody getting their hands on it in an emergency situation and having no idea and hurting themselves or someone else. And that's been the biggest thing why like everyone in my family I've taught that wanted to and that's willing to learn. I even have other members of my family that originally were anti-firearm being like, oh, can I at least learn how to use it? It's no, as you've said many times, it's no different than a tool. It's no different than a hammer, no different than a nail gun. It's good to learn how to use because even if you don't want to own it, I bet you at some point in your life, it's going to affect you.
Mm-hmm.
And especially it gives you a better perspective on how to interact with officers. This is the other thing I kind of wanted to bring up.
Sure.
Part of that training that we were talking about, when you're looking at it from a civilian perspective, it becomes very different when you look at it from a law enforcement perspective. If you watch the videos on some of the trainings that they do, especially the ones where they have a firearm at the ready, it's like, when do you shoot or when do you react? That was something years ago that fundamentally changed what I look at it. Because for a little while when I was a kid, I got a little pissed at, oh, they should just train better. Oh, they should just know better. And I was pretty arrogant about it. I'll be honest with you. I was a bit naive. But when I saw that split second decision you have to make and be 100% committed, you can't question it.
Yeah.
Your job is on the line, your life is on the line, someone else's life is on the line. That is something that's very difficult, that even with a lot of training, no matter where you live in the world, that is such a difficult call. And
there are a lot of simulators. I'm sorry. I want to get this out there. There are a lot of simulators out there that you can go to as a civilian and go through the police level engagement training. They are done with actual police as the actors, and they recreate actual scenarios that they have been put into. It's all, pre-recorded and everything, and it's laser pistols, but the scenarios that you're put into, these are real scenarios that real police were involved in. You get to see what they get to see and go through in those split-second decisions.
And it's something that's very difficult. And I feel like a lot of people that really complain about police, because don't get me wrong, I have my issues in terms with American police and training. I feel like they're not trained well enough in a lot of aspects.
Yeah.
And I know you're in the same boat. However, man, with a lot of that stuff, it's just so split second that people trying to back on America.
We get to armchair dissect a lot of their decisions for days, weeks, and months after they happen. And it's not fair to them because literally they see it from one angle for 1 second and have to make that call right there.
And that's the thing, is they're charged with protecting not only themselves, but everyone around them. And it's not always an easy call. One of the best I'd recommend is Donut Operator on YouTube. He's probably one of my favorite LEO breakdown guys. He breaks it down for the good and the bad, for both law enforcement and civilians and everything else. He calls it out like the way he sees it. And I feel like there's a lot of people that are anti-firearm that don't understand. They don't take the time to watch these kind of informational videos to really get a grasp on how difficult it is. And there's no easy solution other than training, other than taking a lot of time to understand it. And to be fair, I will say this, I feel like a lot of police officers are kind of overworked in this country. They work long hours, expected long shifts. If you have a job where you are the pinnacle of making split-second decisions that have a lot of mental fatigue and that require very difficult calculations, we're not putting ourselves in a good situation by having these officers work 10, 12, 14, 18 hours. That's just stupid. But that's a problem with the unions and law enforcement itself. That's a whole different discussion that I know we're going to have an episode on. But getting back to firearms, for the anti-firearm people, just have a little bit of empathy. That's all I can ask. And just watch some stuff and get some information, take some training. Even if you never touch a firearm in your life, taking a couple of those courses just so you understand might save your life in a situation, because vice versa, now you're going to understand what maybe an officer is looking for. Because, for example, if you're at a police stop or you're getting pulled over or there's something like that, you might not know you're acting suspiciously, where you're reaching around for something. Maybe you're wearing a sweatshirt and you're reaching around for something else, and they might be coming over. You might be, oh yeah, shit, I got to grab my ID, and you reach for something, and they wonder why you got shot. It's like, well, unfortunately, you're behaving unknowingly in a way that's very suspicious, that looks like somebody that would have an illegal firearm.
So real quick, several years ago, I went through a good portion of the police academy.
I didn't know that.
I had to get out because of physical issues. I absolutely shredded my calves. I was not at the weight I needed to be at when I started the training, but I was going to age out of the academy before I got it to it. So they boosted me through my training well before I was ready for it. I was trying to lose the weight, but it wasn't coming off fast enough, and long story. So, but I had gotten to the point in the training where I got to see some videos. And one of the videos I got to see was what an officer sees during a traffic stop. And if you're somebody who gets really nervous and then you're like, oh, I got to grab my ID, I got to grab my insurance, all the cop can see is you rooting around looking for stuff. They're automatically going to go from a 1 to an 8 real fucking quick because, oh, this guy's moving stuff around. Is he trying to hide something? Is he looking for something? Is he trying to get something that he can conceal and use against me? Like Gibbs is saying, go through some of these basic information courses. See the world through somebody else's eyes for 2 minutes. Just get that different perspective.
It's 100% worth it and eye-opening, because most of the people I know that really have an argument against firearm ownership have never gone through those. And once people see how quickly that happens, and that really changes their perspective, like, wow, I get it. I really do. But something else to consider too, and I did want to I did want to make a quick note for this point, was in terms of politics, firearm ownership.
This could be, it's a whole episode.
I know, but in terms of politics, the only thing that really gets me was firearm ownership was never a big deal until the 80s or 90s. Like, I just want to point that out for everybody that thinks like firearm ownership, Second Amendment stuff is a left or right issue. No, it's really a case of people that want your individual freedoms or liberties and people that don't. Fundamentally, there are people, and I will point this out, there's people on both sides that are hypocrites on this stuff. There are people on both sides that say they're pro Second Amendment rights and they're against it. Dan Crenshaw, cough, cough. And there are people on the Democratic side that years ago were pro Second Amendment that are now against, or even sometimes flip-flop and vice versa. So don't fall into the trap of assuming that all Republicans are pro Second Amendment and all Democrats are against it. Yes, the parties as a whole are kind of in that area, but they've both done some stuff that really have hurt the Second Amendment and have been anti-firearm, unfortunately, just due to political pressure. So just keep that in mind for political discussions, you know, just because at the end of the day, they're just saying shit to get reelected. I hate to say it, but that's all.
More or less. Wait till they're not up for re-election and you'll find out who they really are. Yeah,
no shit. Jesus.
So, like you brought up, the politics of it all, a lot of that relies on statistics. We were able to find the stats for 2023. 58% of all gun-related deaths in 2023 were self-inflicted. That was about 27,300. So that's a lot. But they will use those numbers to say that that's gun violence. They won't tell you that was self-harm.
I was actually looking back through this up until the mid 2000s, and every single year, the vast majority is self-inflicted. It's self-authored.
It's always over half.
And what angers me about that is, number one, this is something that I know all of us kind of firearm owners kind of do. Like, for example, when a buddy of mine, he, lost a family member of his, and he was feeling really depressed. And I even spoke to him and was like, hey, if you need me to come over and help you out or need some stuff, I know some people that, have told me like, hey, I'm going through a tough time. I might need some mental help or something like that, or maybe something. Can you just hang on to mine for a few days or a week or something like that? I know for any of us in the firearm community, that's like a 100%. Like, I would absolutely do that for anyone that I'm close with. 100%. Because we all, no matter how, that's kind of one of those things, no matter how tough you think you are, sometimes when shit hits the fan, every once in a while you just need a helping hand for something like that. And it really sucks that suicides are so linked with that. But there's nothing you can do other than just be there to support people and try your best to make people aware of that and understand that, like, it is a serious issue, but that's why you have to kind of have that community of people around you to support you.
Yeah. So, in that 27,300 stat, of those, 463 were accidental. So that would be people mishandling. People showing off, like, oh, look at my dad's gun.
People.
And they,
my favorite
kids trying to look cool.
My favorite video I ever saw was the dumbest thing imaginable. There was a guy hunting with his kid. He wants to go underneath a fence. He goes underneath the fence first, grabs the barrel of it, and pulls it towards him. The trigger gets caught on a branch, shoots himself.
Wow.
It's stuff like that. There are many people that are just stupid. Or like there was an officer that was around where I was at, that he was cleaning his firearm. He did not clear it. And so when he went to clean it, he ended up shooting. I think he shot himself in the arm somewhere. And he ended up getting hospitalized and stuff like that. And they let him go from the force. But it's like, guys, it's simple stuff. It's always simple stuff. But to go back on those numbers, though, what that means is really they're adding in those numbers in with homicides to then boost up and try to say firearm ownership is even worse than it is.
Yeah, because if you add in homicides with the self-inflicted, that's like 96%. So yeah, 96% of all deaths last year were, or all gun-related deaths were, bad. Well, that sounds like a horrible stat. Well, they're not telling you that 58% of those were self-inflicted.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And it's crazy to think that only 604 were due to law enforcement involvement.
Right.
Out of a country of like 350 million people, only 604 are involved with police. That's actually an incredible statistic per capita. Like,
yeah, you're more likely to win the lottery on the same day you got struck by lightning twice than you are to get shot by a cop.
Like, and especially not for nothing, if you comply with lawful orders and understand how to speak with officers, things like that.
Now, on that, let me just side segue. If you have any want or worry about the police officers in your town, for God's sake, record, live stream, whatever. Just hold the police accountable if you have to. Do not be afraid to record because they are public servants. In all 50 states, you have the right to record police officers, especially during a traffic stop.
Yeah. The best advice I've always had with that is absolutely record, but you don't have to be a dick about it.
100%.
Just record.
Be nice about it.
Kill them with kindness.
Yes.
And maybe this is just my experience, but in the couple of times I've ever been pulled over, I've never had a ticket issued. I've never had a problem. It's always been set it off to record. Say, yes, sir. How you doing? Yeah, no problem. Hey, I totally understand. I appreciate it. Thank you. If you start off on the positive, I'm not saying it'll work every time, but boy, does it work in your favor, especially how many people are causing problems. And they're like, hey, how you doing? What's going on? What can I help you with? And the couple of times I've been pulled over, the officers have been like, oh, yeah, don't worry. I just need your license and registration. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. No problem. They're like, oh yeah, you forgot to, do an inspection of your car, or you forgot to renew the registration. It's like, oh crap, I'm an idiot. I'll handle that. And everything's cool. And I tell them, oh yeah, I have a firearm in the car. Here's my license to carry. Here's this and that. And they're like, oh, okay, right. Cool. As long as you follow whatever your state requires with that and just do it in like a nice manner. But you being a dick to them, even if they're being an asshole, never works out in your favor. Never.
No. So you must have gotten pulled over by local cops. Here in my glorious state, if you get stopped by the State Highway Patrol, you are getting a ticket. It does not matter. There are very, very few instances in which you will not get a ticket. But if the stateies pull you over, you are getting a ticket. That is just a matter of what it is.
This is something else I want to do on the police episode, but I feel like the tickets only hurt poor people, and that's why they shouldn't be issued tickets.
100%.
It should actually have to be
if the punishment for breaking the law is only a fine, then the crime or the law is only there to hurt the poor.
That's why it should be community service hours. You want to see streets cleaned up and want to see roads rebuilt and want to see everything done? If you break the law, you got to do community service hours. You got to clean up stuff. That would actually solve problems, because guess what? It inconveniences people no matter how rich or poor you are. We all got the same amount of time.
Yep.
But that's a rant for another time. But no, I guess I've gotten lucky with that, but also not for nothing, I drive like a grandma, so I never really get pulled over.
Yeah, that'll do it too.
Yeah. But anyways, with what we were going with that one, what I wanted to make people aware of is, in comparison to the U.S., London alone in England had 50,000 serious knife crimes recorded in 1 year. They are recorded at 17.89 offenses per 10,000 people, or per capita. That is way, way, way more than America. America is at 13.7 per 100,000 people, and that's including the self-harm. If you cut that in half, you're talking about 13.7 per 200,000, whereas London is at 17.89, almost 18 out of every 10,000. That is insane. And one of the things...
And that's knives.
That's knives. But that's what I'm getting at, is it's a violence problem. And really, at the end of the day, it's a culture problem. Why? London wasn't this way 20 years ago. I will let people make of that as what they want, because that will be a separate episode on the problems of immigration and everything else. But it is an issue to where anywhere that you have issues to where you're merging two very different cultures, every single time without fail, you have violence problems. Every time. Every single documented time in human history. People are more than welcome to try to show me something different, but I know I'm undefeated in this category. I know that for a fact. So it's just one of those things where people need to understand that, sure, America can seem on the outside like we have an issue, but between, as you very much pointed out, the size of the country, the population, and if you look at it per capita or per 10,000 people, there are many countries that are vastly more violent than America. In fact, most of Europe, as long as you're not in the most rural of parts, they are equivalent or more violent. And what's crazy in America, if you take out self-harm with firearms, every single year it's been downtrending since I think it was early 2000s or late 90s. So
yeah, one of those.
So now,
also, fun fact, if you take out the top 10 cities that also have the strictest gun control laws, then the stats drop tremendously.
It's crazy.
Which is a very odd correlation. The people that sit here and champion the laws fail to take into consideration the people who are going to break the laws don't give a fuck about the laws to begin with. So the laws only hurt the people who will follow them in the first place, like you and I. A law is not going to make somebody stop what they're doing in the middle of committing a crime and say, "Oh, this is against the law. I should probably stop this."
No.
I don't think ever once in human history has that ever happened.
There was a famous quote by it wasn't Nancy Pelosi. I wish I remember her name. But there was a senator in America that said this in the early 2000s of, when they realize it's illegal to carry a firearm here, they will simply put it down and understand that it's against the law. And it's like, no, that's not how any of this works. The only reason
Giffords, was it Giffords?
No, it was
wasn't Gabby Giffords?
No, she's out of it now. I wish I remembered her name. I'll remember it probably later on. She's another person that I find it amazing anybody voted for her, because she had the IQ of a fucking walnut. I don't know how. I don't understand. I'll remember her name at some point. But when somebody decides to break the law, they've made that decision. When somebody decides to carry a firearm illegally, commit a crime with it, do all these other things, the consequences of their actions have already kind of gone out the window. Mm-hmm. So by you making it illegal, doesn't change anything. Put it this way. It's illegal to drink and drive, and people do it a lot every day, and people joke about it all the time.
Yep.
It's on one of those things where you can make it a law. It doesn't mean people will follow it. And inversely, the only laws that matter are the ones that are equally enforced. So take those into consideration, and you will see that, wow, there are many laws in this country that aren't really laws because they're never enforced, and there are some that are over-enforced. So go figure that one out.
Yeah. So if you want to kind of touch tips on the law aspect for just a second, if you really want to try and enforce gun laws and make it scary, then you have to really get harsh on the penalties. And I'm talking like Judge Dredd level enforcement and penalties to go along with it. So if you commit a crime with a firearm, not necessarily, you don't hurt anybody. use it in the commission. Currently in Ohio, it's like 3, 5, 7 years mandatory sentencing or something like that. Make it 25 and make it like solitary confinement.
See, while I don't disagree with you, I feel like there's a better solution.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Did you know?
Well, hold on. I'm not done on my rant. If you actually hurt somebody with a firearm, then it's going to be hard labor, 25 years. And if you kill somebody, I'm sorry, but I'm pro death penalty. So if you kill somebody, you get to be killed back. 30, 60, 90 days, sure. Let the legal appeals process go through. But if there's evidence, especially like good, solid video evidence, which loops us back into the AI issues we've been talking about, that's going to be a whole big issue.
I know.
But if there's verifiable, DNA, video, witness corroboration, yeah, you're toast.
Well, I'm glad you touched on the work thing, because I've always had the thought that it is kind of bullshit that we as taxpayers have to pay for the prison system anyway. So my thought would be, I think the greater deterrent would be, imagine if you had to work off the entirety of what you owe to the state and to the victims and to everybody else while in prison. So that way you are a net zero cost. That is at least what my understanding would be. Or to be the idea of, hey, if you caused this much in damage and you did this, hey, if you don't want to use a firearm illegally in a crime, then just don't do this. But if you do want to use that, great. Now you're going to be working for 10 years, repairing our roads, repairing our infrastructure, doing all these things that you don't want to do, at least to pay back your debt to society. I really think we should be using the prison system to bring some good out of it, to better it everybody else, because we have to deal with this person. Not for nothing. If we're going to be paying into this person staying in prison, it's one thing to have a punishment, which I agree with, but also I think rehabilitation should come with it, and somebody should be allowed a chance as long as it's a nonviolent crime.
Yes.
If they hurt somebody...
The prison system in and of itself needs a really thick overhaul.
Oh, yeah. That one I kind of want to link with the police and prison one, and we have a whole...
I'll jot that down.
Yeah, that's something... I feel like that's an episode we should do. I've already been kind of looking into it, but... It's one of those cases to where I agree with you. Stiffer penalties all around. And by the way...
Running list. Awesome. I know you can't see that, but running list.
I trust you.
It's analog.
One of the problems we have in America, and this is for people in Europe to understand, is in many major cities, people will be arrested for a crime. Oh, bless you. People will be arrested for a crime, and then they'll just be let right back out. There are many judges that will say, oh yeah, this person happens to be a minority. Oh, they live a hard life. Their life sucks. We shouldn't put them in jail. And they'll let them back out. And then a lot of officers get very disenfranchised and very disinclined to be able to arrest these people. Because what's the point? There was a famous case in New York with a guy that got arrested 30 or 40 times that kept robbing people, assaulting people, and the judge just kept letting him go. So at some point, it's like, it also has to do with the legal system we have here. The problem is we are a country, that elects clowns that's run by lawyers, and there's unfortunately there's no real just simple way to fix it. So you're kind of stuck with this system where the judges can decide based on any sort of subjective idea whether somebody gets prosecuted or not, and that's the inherent imbalance. I
kind of have a problem with the judges having the amount of power that they do. Like, I get that they need it in some areas, but there are some situations I just don't think they should have all the say.
That's why I think we would need to change the appeals process for a lot of that. And I really feel like judges should be able to lose their license to practice law if they have more than 2 or 3 overrulings on something like that. So where, let's just say if a judge makes a ruling and it goes up and then it gets overruled and appealed, after by the second or third one, they're like, all right, let's go and review everything and see why you're coming to these decisions. And the minute they're saying, oh yeah, you're biased because you're not prosecuting people because of the color of their skin or because of their background or orientation or whatever, you shouldn't be a judge. I'm sorry. And unfortunately, It's one of those things where there's a certain political party that's very much entrenched and ingrained in cities, and then so their ideologies gets pushed, so therefore certain people get special treatment. So, AKA, many major cities are okay with racism because it pushes their agenda, and it sucks, and it's ridiculous. Should not be the case, but
I've said it once, I'll say it again. People suck.
Yeah. But, you know, if that's something we could change, that would definitely help. Because you've seen, you know, videos, stuff like that in California with Los Angeles and San Francisco and New York and all these places where there's people that commit many heinous crimes and they're just let go. Even when it comes to firearms, you know, armed robberies and stuff like that, even murders. Or the other problem is, too, they get so overloaded that by the time they schedule to have the case done, it might be 6 months or a year down the road. So, just saying, it's a crazy system that if we could kind of clean it up, it would help it out a lot. But to reinforce the original point for this, not for nothing Europe, but don't go throwing stones in a glass house if we're talking about America having violence problems. When y'all have friggin' no-go zones because of the immigrants that you brought over there, where you can't even allow police or women to walk through, you know, be careful. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, and don't even get me started on the whole issue of there are whole countries that have sections that are cordoned off for the religious-only police.
Did you know in England it's gotten so bad that they're actually arresting people for saying that they were praying inside their heads near a mosque? Because, and I quote, if a Christian's praying near a mosque, that is very anti-Muslim of them.
Man, I could have sworn there was a book about that or something, like something about the 80s, maybe?
You know, Nah. That's no one. This is such a new thing. No one could have ever thought about this before. I mean,
No, nothing like 1984, maybe.
No. That's probably like a music album or something like that. That's not a.
Gotta
that's
be.
Not a book. No way.
No.
But on a more serious note, read dystopia novels. You will find that we are in the dystopia. We are there. That's what we live in.
1984, Fahrenheit 451.
Absolutely. You know, those, Animal Farm, and a few other ones that definitely were
Soylent Green.
Oh, Jesus. We're getting there, unfortunately. I don't like it, but we're getting there.
We got to find the chart because we're close.
You know, I don't want to find the chart. That's the problem. And so, but
well, the stats were all I had in the notes. That was the last part that I had. So,
okay, yeah. I mean, thankfully we've kind of covered, I believe, everything that we wanted to talk about with that one for the most part. I mean, at least I would say, in my perspective, to kind of sum up a lot of this, it is nice to have the ability and the right to carry when I feel like I need to. And at the end of the day, it is up to my judgment. And I will be honest, there's many days where I don't carry. If I'm just hanging out in my local area where I know things are super safe and nothing happens, there's many times where I don't carry. But there are many days where I'm like, you know what? I'm going somewhere that might be a little sketch. I will happily, you know, keep that in the glove box, keep that on me, and, you know, just in case. But it's not like, I think a lot of Europeans assume that we're this caricature of Americans that have, you know, I can't use this quote because it's not appropriate, but it's like we're holding two rifles, shooting up in the air, just being willy-nilly, you know, like what's his name? The old Looney Tunes character?
The cartoon character.
Yeah. Like
Sam.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's not most of us. That's not even like, that's barely any of us.
Or the picture of the American breakfast with the pile of bacon and the pistols sitting next to your plate and all that stuff, or using the pistols to eat your breakfast with.
No. My pistol does not have a spoon attachment underneath where the mag light is. It's just not, no. But it's one of those things where it's easy to make fun of American culture because it's so prevalent. The reality of it is, most firearm owners, what people got to realize, they carry concealed. You'll never know.
Yeah.
That's part of the deterrent and part of why we have concealed carry is the idea that you will never know who around you can handle business and who can't. And are you willing to take that risk to start some shit? And I will tell you, in Texas, that answer is always fuck no. I will tell you right now that the answer.
Texas is the land of fuck around and find out.
No, don't do it. Just it's a no.
That should be their new state motto.
Honestly, if Texas wasn't overrun with a bunch of wimpy judges that don't allow them to actually enforce the law, absolutely. But unfortunately, they're not allowed to enforce the law lately.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would agree with Oside and Chet. It's the South. Yeah, absolutely.
In general, yeah.
And it should be, and rightfully so. Because again, what's the point of having a law if you don't enforce it? Then it's not a law. You know? So I mean that's just my 2 cents on that. And actually a little thing if you want to talk about with firearm stuff, because I was very curious in your opinion. What's your opinion on the whole assault weapons, assault rifles?
It's a made up term.
Attaboy. There we go.
There are fully automatic firearms like the military use. There are semi-automatic like most civilians have. There's no such thing as a fully semi-automatic
assault
clip loaded revolver.
Yes. The 30, what would we say, 30 round clips and
a 30 round clip mag.
Yeah.
I think some of the politicians that really try to spice up what they're talking about don't know enough about what they're talking about to actually get the point across. They use all the words sandwiched together to make the most incomprehensible nonsense imaginable.
So
it's hilarious to listen to.
One of my favorite videos I saw, did you watch under the Obama administration when they asked the director of the ATF to disassemble a firearm and he had no idea how to do it?
Oh, God, yes.
So one of the things...
I was screaming at the TV that day.
So one of the things I wanted to bring up to the Europeans and to other non-Americans is that in America, we are an incredibly inflated system of bureaucracy. For the ATF, or the Division of the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, ATF is really what is supposed to be the law enforcement branch when it comes to firearms. Not legislate laws, which we're going to talk about in a second, but they're supposed to enforce them. Now, you would think
that'd be a kick-ass agency to work for, too.
You would think you'd be...
The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms.
The agency of, I'm going to have a great fucking weekend every goddamn week. It's great. But no, it's... You would think you'd hire people that are knowledgeable in firearms to head up the ATF. You think you'd be busting drug rings and gangs and all these other things. No. How do I know this? Because the director of the ATF, on more than one occasion with more than one different director, had no idea how to handle one of the most ubiquitous and common firearms in American history. And not just one, but also several rifles and pistols and even shotguns. So... part of one of my problems we have in this government and really in America is you might say, oh, wow, American laws are weird. And my response is, yeah, the people enforcing them don't know shit. That's like imagine if there was an office about, let's just say, makeup, and they put me in charge of enforcing that. I will tell you right now, I don't know shit about makeup. I couldn't enforce fuck all. But why would you put somebody that knows fuck all about firearms as the head of the ATF? That makes no sense. Unless he's doing a lot of drugs. Maybe sure might know, alcohol or something like that. I might know drugs with the DEA, but if he maybe he smokes a lot of tobacco. I don't know. Maybe he's 1 for 3, but doesn't really seem to help if he doesn't know anything about firearms, but to be enforcing firearm law. The second part of the problem is the ATF is allowed somehow to interpret the law in whatever way they want, and then enforce it. And
then make their own laws.
Yes, they make their own laws by saying, oh yeah, this is the law that you passed, but we actually want to interpret like this, and this is how we will enforce it. So there are things you can do in your firearms that, per the letter of the law, are legal, but the ATF will put you in jail. There are things you could do per letter of the law that are not illegal, but the ATF will say that's close enough and put you in jail. But there are also things where you can suggest that might sort of maybe almost could be possibly illegal. And the ATF will say, you're in jail for 50 years. Go fuck yourself. There was a guy, there's a guy that's in jail right now for making a 80% to scale auto sear out of plastic that was on a credit card as a joke. I don't know if you know about this case.
I do not.
Okay. This is one of the scams that happened last year, and it's fucking ridiculous. For those people at home that don't know what an auto sear is, it's to sum it up very, very easily. It is a way to make a firearm function in a way that's not supposed to, in a more of a fully automatic way. Turns from one pull of the trigger, from one bullet to one pull of the trigger and many, essentially, to put it really, really simple. I know I'm butchering it, but keeping it simple. That is illegal to have the ability to transform that function if that firearm's not registered to do so. And if you're not also registered to own or have or operate that. Well.
Side note, it's also inherently dangerous because the firearms are not designed for that.
Exactly. The tolerances are very different for firearms that are designed for actual fully automatic fire. Well, as a joke, this guy made basically a credit card. And he made an auto sear that's like a punch out diagram where you could like push out, but it's at 80% of the scale, so it will never work. It was part of the joke to make fun of the ATF. They said he had the intent to make illegal firearm, I guess you could call firearm products, something like that, firearm adapters or whatever. Accessory, that's the word. And he's in jail. He was a YouTuber. He did YouTube and everything. I watched the whole thing with his wife doing the live streams and stuff like that and them explaining everything that happened. I remember when he put them on for sale. He is in jail for decades for a joke.
What firearm was he trying to modify?
I believe it was an AR platform.
Can they successfully complete the modification with the product he had? Why is he in jail?
Because it was the intent.
Oh, so like the intent of deleting a server full of emails?
Yeah. But it's Hillary, so it's different.
Gotcha.
It's stuff like that. To where, imagine if you made a product to make fun of someone. And they said, oh, but that product could have the intent of hurting people. You go to jail.
Mm-hmm. So on that premise there, let me ask you. For many years, they've had the phrase ghost gun. The files are out there, or if you're just very, very handy, you can use 3D software.
What?
Does that mean that my 3D printer should be registered as a firearm?
What?
Because that's the argument that some people are having.
Oh, I thought, I actually remember hearing about that. First of all, that's dumb. Second of all, you will never stop people from being able to commit crimes and do stuff. Third of all, just because something...
No, if you look at the plethora of street confiscated weapons that are classified as firearms because they can discharge a round of ammunition probably once, it's scary the level of ingenuity some of these people on the streets have.
People forget they were making firearms long before CNC machines. We've been making firearms for hundreds of years. There are entire books dedicated for you how to legally make firearms in your house. This is not uncommon knowledge. This is something we've been doing for hundreds of years and something we're probably going to continue to keep doing. The thing is, 99.99% of all hobbyists want to do that just because it's fucking cool. Not because they want to hurt anybody. Because guess what? No 3D gun can you print. Is it going to be any good? At least right now. It's not going to be able to... It might be 1-2 shots. After at some point, it's going to blow apart. And it's going to be a fucking grenade. Congratulations. You 3D printed your own personal Claymore, and you have no consent over when it goes off. Congratulations. You know, you basically just win the Darwin Award with a ticking time bomb. It's... But again, it's the case of because somebody could commit a crime, doesn't mean you should go after them. But that's their argument, which I think is insane.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, 3D print yourself a Roomba Claymore. Hell yeah.
Oh, don't tempt me. But it's one of those things where like they got to understand with 3D printing. Eventually, there's going to come a scenario, or just like in Star Trek, where you can just print something that's going to be a weapon, no matter what it is. You can always hijack the system. You can always change stuff around. You know, the only reason I really think they would have to regulate that would be if you had like steel printers that became so cheap that gangs could buy them and build hundreds at a time. It's like, all right, I would understand having to like be more careful with it, but at the end of the day, that's not what's happening.
Yeah, so there are a few that are out there. They're like tabletop models.
Yeah.
They're centering type printers. Yeah. They're low enough cost that if a group of people had the resources and the knowledge, they could really do it.
Well, then that's also like the ATF's job to like find the people that are making them and deal with that on a case by case.
But these are industrial machines that are used to make auto parts. And you know, machinist shop type equipment.
Yeah, but you can make a firearm out of a pipe and like a couple of tools, like not for nothing.
I know.
That's never going to change, even with sophisticated. No. It's going to be one of those things until you can literally 3D print out of metal a firearm that works out of the box. There's nothing you can do, and even then, it becomes the question of how effective will it be.
Yeah,
you know, because again, people understand.
I mean, if it works once, that's all it has to work. In some scenarios,
true. But you know, no one's going to make money selling those.
I think you'd be surprised.
Maybe. I don't know.
Also, think about this. Those stupid turn-in programs.
What do you mean?
Turn in your guns and we'll give you a $100 gift card.
Oh, the buybacks? Oh, I hate those.
Yes.
Okay. So,
could you, in theory, 3D print a bunch of bullshit and turn all that in?
People have done that. You don't understand.
Oh, that's glorious.
So, you know what someone did, which was crazy? So California at one point, I thought it was in LA, they were doing a gun buyback. Well, somebody went around buying a bunch of, this was like 20 years ago. You know how the cheap revolver, 22 revolvers used to be like $50?
Yes.
They bought boxes of them and got $100 each for them. He doubled his money being like, fuck you. You want to buy them all back?
That's brilliant.
There we go. So the police lost money and now they have a bunch of 22 revolvers.
That's brilliant.
You're talking about defund the police. That's a hilarious way to do it. I'm just saying. That's kind of funny. But I've never been for buybacks because then the problem is now you have firearms in the hands of officers where you don't know where they end up. Because not to not trust police, but there's also been many, many cases of those firearms disappearing that's somehow ending in the hands of officers personally in their personal safes. And there's no way of ensuring they won't end up somewhere in the government. So, not for nothing, I think it's insane. Oh, by the way, O-side, so he comments in the chat, I remember someone that set up a stand near one of those buybacks to buy back the gun at a better price. That was Brandon Herrera. And he is my fucking idol for some of that shit. There's a reason why they call him AK Jesus.
Yes.
What he did, which is absolutely brilliant, was told people, hey, if you're going to be just giving this firearm to the police, I will buy them from you at a better price. And he got amazing deals on stuff. Unfortunately, there were a couple of them that were total pricks that on principle wouldn't sell it to him. They're like, oh, you like firearms? I purposely won't sell this to you. So it's like, all right, cool. You are the least cool person at the table. Wow. You're the uncle that nobody loves. I'm sorry.
I especially like those people who turn in their firearms from their home so they can help prevent gun violence. It's like, were you going to commit a crime? Then you're not doing anything.
You are keeping it off the streets. Congratulations. Because guess what? Obama did Operation Fast and Furious, where he gave all these drug cartels all these firearms that we had confiscated from civilians, and we had bought.
We talked about that.
So people don't realize you giving more guns to the government does not mean anything's going to be safer, because they might just give them to drug cartels.
Yeah, which, like you were saying, the guns that get turned in at buybacks, if they're not logged properly, who's to say that that's not going to be a drop pistol for a bad situation for a cop, a dirty cop?
It's been known to happen. So one of the problems I have, I can't reveal too much information here, but I knew an officer who was basically responsible in a town for all the firearms that were collected. He would then take them. He would, take all the information off them and go and basically weapons test them to make sure they were functioning, make sure they are what they were, whatever. The dude would have 100 plus firearms at his house at any one time, which is no big deal. But 70 of those weren't ones that he owned. They'd be ones from lockup. They'd be from the police department. And cool that he was testing and checking them. But my problem is, if you got a house that's revolving a couple hundred firearms every few months, it's so easy to let them slip through the cracks, especially if that person, if is getting arrested and they're gone, they forfeited that property. That property's no longer theirs. Which, by the way, is kind of a fucked up thing with our system. Not for nothing. It's like, oh, you got arrested for a crime and this was your property, even if it wasn't involved in it. Well, it's now ours. So thank you for that. And it just gets taken. And so now in the ether, it could be anywhere. We don't know. So just keep that in mind, that with a buyback, just because the government's buying it back doesn't mean the government's going to use it for something good.
Remember, they're the government. They're here to help.
Yeah, to help get themselves more money. Here to take your taxes.
Yes.
So, but yeah, no, buybacks are stupid.
Hey, taxes and tariffs. We'll have to do an episode on that.
I'm so excited. I am so aggressively pro tariff. It's not even funny. But we've been waiting for more information.
Yeah, I just wish people would calm the fuck down, because my portfolio is crying right now.
Hey, it's a short-term pain for a long-term.
It's temporary, and I'm just going to wait for the sales to finish up so I can buy.
Oh yeah, buy the dip. That's how you get rich, baby. So,
I don't want to be rich. I just want to have enough. Like, I want to pay off my house and then just coast on what I'm making for a while.
Yeah. Well, I think most Americans my age or younger consider that rich. Because the idea of having a paid off house, I think for the majority of people under 30 is like a nigh impossible dream.
Yeah. So, way off topic here. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to be in a position to where I can leave my house for my kids, because I worry about the ability of them to be able to buy one. Yeah. And that's terrifying, because, I've got an 18-year-old that's coming out into the world. I've got a 13-year-old who in, 5, 8, 10 years is going to be staring down that barrel. And I don't know that he's going to be able to buy a house at a reasonable situation.
And the sad part is, it doesn't matter what job they go into. I bet you that job will not pay enough. Because with the way housing,
unless we have a major crash,
which we're due for, like it has to happen. There's no.
Yeah.
And what sucks is I know people that combined make almost $250,000, and in my area they still can't afford a house.
Good Lord.
Like, I make good money. My girlfriend makes good money. And I am lucky the fact that basically I have taken the last 10 years of my life taking care of my grandparents so I can have a house. Because even with both of us making good money, I wouldn't get approved because I don't.
Not happening.
No. If I have to put 10%.
Like there are still places in America you can buy a house. Like in my area, with what you're making, you could probably still get a house.
With what I'm making, I'd be fine out your way. But out my way, I spent $1,000 last month heating my house. I spend like $700 plus a month on taxes.
Dude, I got my power bill finally. Yeah. I was so relieved. It was only $180. Hey, I had a $400 power bill for December. I was shitting a brick.
Dude, I don't have electric heat and mine was $380. And that was with the tenant moved out.
Wow.
Because I believe our kilowatt hours in the winter are like something crazy like 32 cents or something like that. 30, 32. Yeah, they basically double it over the winter. Because during the summer it's like 18.
God.
So basically my bill's always like $400.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. I
pay like 10.2.
Yeah,
year
I know.
round.
The power company should also send lube with their bill. That's what I'm learning. Just, it make my life easier.
Oh,
that's why I want to get the ultra efficient. My girlfriend and I were looking. We were at Costco earlier. They have like the ultra efficient air conditioners. I might have to get some.
You might need to get more solar panels is what you need.
That's the sad part. Even with the solar panels, it might.
And a wind generator.
I'm about to build my own fucking nuclear reactor the rate we're going. Like, fuck.
You can do it. I mean, the parts are on Amazon.
Supposedly.
Right.
But. All right, I guess.
Well, I don't have anything else to.
No, this is a fun little chat. I enjoyed this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess.
Guns are not bad. People are
yeah,
bad.
No, it's. It's never been the fault of the firearm for something like that happening. It's just all in how you handle it and what you do, and just understand.
You take away the gun, we use a knife. You take away the knife, we use a rock or a stick. I mean, it's how we've done business for tens of thousands of years.
And consider most every other civilized country is more violent than us on almost every level. And how you know that is very simple. If you look at photos of a country, watch how many single younger women are walking around in areas. You notice in America, 99% of areas women can walk around just fine. You suddenly go to some of these other countries and you won't see any of them. There's a reason why certain countries don't leave the house, and it's not always because of the religion. It's because of, hey, if they leave, they're going to get hurt. And it sucks, and it's stupid, and it shouldn't happen, but not my country. I can't tell them how to live.
Nope.
Oh, so Oside, I can explain that. He commented, he heard somewhere that they are forcing solar people to give to the power companies electricity for free, then they're getting charged for it. So here's how it works in my state, because my state's run by a bunch of communists. We get paid 1/10 the rate. I think it's like 1/8 or 1/10, something like that. So,
gross.
Yes. Now, granted, the good news is, for me, it doesn't matter because I use more energy than I generate. So for me, they don't have to pay me on that. So the good news is it basically runs my meter to where I don't use a lot most of the time, especially in the summer. But my neighbor has the problem where when he's not home a lot of the time, and it's literally just his solar panels running, he might generate $500 worth of electricity. He'll get $50 on his credit for it. But then guess what? All the things that are running in his house still somehow use that up every time. But yet they can resell that same energy that you just brought in the system for that $500. So
that's bullshit.
It's called monopoly and communism. That too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. It's great. It's great. I can't wait to sell and leave here. It's great.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's going to wrap us up for today.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments, concerns, thoughts, last minute things? Any questions from the audience?
Best rifle?
Depends. What's the purpose?
I'm fond of the M60, but that's just because I started rising up off the deck when I was shooting it. The 25 millimeter machine gun, also very fond of it.
Sorry, time out.
As far as like
25 millimeter machine gun.
Deck mounted. That was. I
believe we call those a cannon, sir. That's big enough to classify as a cannon.
Yeah, 76 rounds a minute. It was orgasmic. Best civilian legal or civilian available, because I can own just about anything in my state. I would have to say, while I'm fond of my Mosin, I've got to go with the AK.
So, it depends on what you're trying to do. That's the thing. Best rifle, if you're talking about in America, for most people, it's going to be a 5.56 platform. It's just simply put, you can hunt a lot of things with it. Self-defense is good. Good flight characteristics, easy to aim, easy recoil. If you're looking at a semi-automatic rifle to get started in, it's hard to say no with that. That being said, if you're looking to go to war with it, absolutely an AK platform is a great option. You and I are both Mosin fans, so we both like those. I can definitely say anything that's 30-06 if you want to get something with a little more punch to the power. 30-06 or 308. Really anything with a semi-automatic or bolt action that's going to handle your mid to upper range for most anything. Anything bigger than that, I have a hard time justifying unless you're doing some crazy shit. I mean, like best overkill a 700 Nitro Express. Yeah, no shit. If you're trying to kill the buffalo on the other side of the house after the fridge, yeah, sure, you could use a 700 Nitro. But like, fuck, that's like carrying a Deagle in 50 AE. Like, fucking Christ. I feel like that's one of those things where if you can't use it properly, then there's no point in owning it. Like, as cool as I think some of them are, like if you can't hit what you're looking at, what's the fucking point? So I don't know. Like they're
what
cool.
Was it? The revolver that shot the 454 Castle with the 20 millimeter or 30 millimeter underbarrel. I think it was like a prop gun or something, but my God,
Lord.
it was amazing. I will say the AR is chambered in 50 Beowulf. That is a cartridge that does not get enough love.
That would be cool because it's basically just like a snub down 50, so it's a lot easier to handle, right?
Yeah, and it takes. There's an AR magazine. I think standard AR double stack mags it will run in, but it only holds like eight rounds.
So that's cool if you need a higher caliber. I always wanted one in 458 SOCOM.
And you can swap out the upper.
I wanted to get an AR in 458 SOCOM. I always thought that'd be fucking dope.
Oh yeah.
Or oh god, was it? 300 Blackout is kind of cool. If you want a good, subsonic ammo, if you're running a suppressor, that kind of deal. But
yeah,
I mean, best rifle, it all depends on what you're doing. But anything 7.62 or 5.56, you can't go wrong. As long as you research what the hell you need. And just make sure it's reliable. Not for nothing. Do the maintenance on it. Make sure it works. 950 JDJ. Yeah, that thing's insane. That's terrifying. Yeah. That is the good old non-consensual shoulder remover. That's the chiropractor in a can, we call those. They just God. You ever want to have Arnold Schwarzenegger hit you with the power of 1,000 Terminators? That is the fucking 950 JDJ.
That's
the fatback.
That's the one.
Yeah, I just wrote fat.
The fatback.
Oh man,
yeah,
those are nuts.
Yeah.
I love odds and ends firearms like that. The weird stuff.
I have a couple of the casings from the 25 that I had to use during the one engagement that I was involved with. I'll send you some pictures if you want. They're not small.
I'm trying to think what else. Like in terms of carry, in terms of rifle, I think that kind of covers most of the calibers that we see in America. There's a lot of calibers that we don't see in America in terms of ammunition. That's the other thing. If you're ever going to get a firearm, make sure the ammo is readily available. Because I had a lever action 35 Remington. Fun fact, that ammo is not available in America. That's a particularly European thing. So I still have some just because, but I got rid of the rifle because couldn't find ammo. But make sure you get ammo for it, especially nowadays. In terms of pistols, again, you got your 380 ACP on the low end. You got your 9mm. You got your 45. You got your 10 mils and 40s.
Don't forget 22.
Oh, you can carry 22.
I love 22.
You can carry 22. You know what? I have to watch a video. Somebody did a video on is 22 Magnum a good self-defense round, and I don't know enough about it.
It actually is. It's a solid round.
How does it compare against 380?
I'll let you watch the video.
Oh, so you saw that too?
I don't want to spoil it for you.
Okay. All right, because that's on my to-do.
Yeah. Like the bullet doesn't have a lot of mass, but speed kills.
Okay. Okay. Because I would love to get a 22 mag to have it.
Yeah.
But no, 22.
Yeah, 22 mag is good.
Oh, yeah. 22 LR, that's the usual. 22, great for pistols, great for rifles. They're fun. I recommend anybody that's getting into firearms, get a 22 LR training pistol or rifle.
Yep.
For the love of God.
Yep. 100%.
Do it. It's worth it.
Do the roar. But yeah, I think that's going to finish us up for tonight. Hit us up on the socials. Hopefully the TikTok goes live soon.
Sorry, I have been slacking, and I know I keep saying this every week, so you are welcome to hit me with a baseball bat. I don't know. I don't know.
I'll hit you with the flesh stick.
No, I don't swing that way. No, no. I don't want to know. Scared now.
But as always, find us on the socials. I think I'm going to try doing a group on Facebook and see how that does.
That might be worth it. On our TikTok, I've kind of decided that I'm going to start using it kind of more like primarily on my end. And
Okay.
I've been starting a lot of TikTok arguments lately on my personal one. So I might be causing a little TikTok chaos with ours because why not, right?
Good deal. Do it. Do the thing.
I'll use this episode to argue with people from Europe.
Oh, yes. Do it. All right. Well, guys, thanks for hanging out with us. Hope you enjoyed the thought bubbles.
Hey, thought bubbles. They said I didn't have a thought behind these eyes. I had exactly two. We are, in fact, not smooth brains here. We do have a few wrinkles. But yeah, thanks for hanging out, and we'll catch you guys again next week. Oh, yeah.